But again, doesn't matter what I'm saying, doesn't matter what tips any other influencer, any other gym bro, whoever is saying. If you are not even training consistently enough, if you're not eating the right amount of protein, if you're not meeting your dietary needs, you're not recovering enough between workouts, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're not gonna be seeing as much results as you can. I'm just saying, these 3 things could just help you get from being good to being better. It's just little things, but at the end of the day, you gotta find out what works best for you. What's up everyone? David here. Got a new video for y'all today. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any new videos. Because remember, new videos on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So don't miss out. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are a powerlifter, strongman competitor, CrossFit athlete, Olympic weightlifter, no matter what type of lifting that you're doing, I'm pretty sure we can all appreciate or have the desire to build even more muscle than we already do. Now, who are those specifically that actually do emphasize on building the most amount of muscle they can? That be bodybuilders. And if you're someone like myself, when we first started lifting, it was for that exact reason, to build as much muscle as we can. Now, throughout time, I went from training primarily focusing on bodybuilding to then focusing on strength, so a little bit more powerlifting base. Dabbled a little bit of strongman, you know, picking up some stones, flipping tires, that sort of thing. Went back to powerlifting, but as of late, I have made the commitment, you know what, I'm gonna really focus more on this bodybuilding. I'm done training for strength. I'm gonna give my joints a little bit of a break from lifting so heavy. I wanna primarily focus on building the muscle as much as possible. And when it comes to this, there's gonna be multiple things that you can do to the exercises you're already doing that are just gonna accentuate how much more mass you can put on. So that's what we're gonna be talking about today. I'm gonna be giving you 3 tips on what's gonna help you build up more mass. And the first one is going to be focusing on the eccentrics. Now, for those who don't know, realistically, anytime you contract the muscle, there's going to be 3 components of it. There's going to be the concentric part, which is the part where you're actually squeezing the muscle. You know, most people think this is the hardest part. This is where all the results are going to happen. You will see some results, and everyone's always focusing, oh, come on, let's squeeze, get that last rep in. Or if they're squatting, come on, rep out that last one, grind it out. That is perfectly fine. That right there is what you call the concentric. Afterwards, on the way down, where the muscle is actually lengthening, where you're stretching it out, that's what's called the eccentric. And then any other time where you're just flexing a muscle and holding it in place, so there's tension right here in the muscle, but the joint itself is not moving, that's what's called an isometric. So anytime we flex, we're holding that contraction, but the joint angle is not moving, that's an isometric. Those are gonna be the 3. Now, most people assume that the concentric is where it's at, that's where you're gonna make all the gains. And when it's time to lower the weight down, they don't control it. They just let gravity do all the work. They rep out, get it up, and then they just drop their arms like that. Or if they're squatting, struggle to get it up, and then boom, just dive bomb down, bounce out of the bottom, come back up. No. For those of you who have that goal of trying to build as much muscle as you can, you need to start prioritizing the eccentrics, the lengthening portion of the muscle. If you look at the research, go on PubMed, look up any peer-reviewed study, whatever it is that you're gonna find, you're gonna see that if you actually start prioritizing the eccentrics, you know, slow and controlled on the way down, you will be seeing even more results compared to if you were just let it down. Will you still see results from only focusing on the concentric, only focusing on the way up, and just letting gravity do all the work on the way down? Yeah, probably, but if you want even more results, then go ahead and start prioritizing going a little slower on the way down. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be excessively exaggerated, like a 5 to 10 second slowdown like this. No, don't drop the weight. Anytime you're doing like a pull-up, go up, and then don't just drop yourself like that. So 2 good exercises I like to use as an example are gonna be bicep curls and cat phrases. When we're doing a bicep curl, yeah, we curl it up, but don't just let it go down and then your whole body is rocking down. No. Let your biceps do all the work. Slow and controlled on the way down. And a quick tip is also, I like to flex my triceps on the way down so it ensures I'm getting that full range of motion, which we'll talk about in a bit. But don't just boom, let it drop and then use all that momentum. It's not always about getting it up. It's about nice and good stretch at the bottom, slow tempo. And then with calf raises, how many times have you seen people go on the calf raise machine and they're just bouncing up and down, you know, just letting momentum take them up and down, using that stretch reflex from the calf to get themselves back up? No, no, no. Let's go slow on the way down. Feel that stretch, and then nice and controlled on the way up, fully contract that calf. And it doesn't have to be for those two exercises. For any exercise that you're doing, go ahead and start actually putting some focus towards the eccentrics. Don't just let the weight drop. Actually control it on the way down. So next thing, second tip, what can we do to the exercises we're already doing to help promote even more muscle growth? We're gonna be talking about full range of motion, all right? ROM, anytime you see someone say ROM, that means range of motion, and it should always be full. Well, I shouldn't say it should always be full, but as much as possible, try to take advantage of moving that joint through its entire range of motion, obviously as much as you can. Some people, they got poor mobility, some people, like, they can't even lock out their elbows, so when they're doing a curl, this is as far as they can go. Maybe some people on bench press, this is as low as they can go, they can't go anymore. Do what you can, but if you can, please, full ranges of motion. Now, depending on what exercise you're doing, specifically what piece of equipment you're using, you may be a little bit limited, because think about it. Free weights, we can move the weight in whatever direction that we want, because they're not actually attached to anything. That's why they're called free weights. They're free to move around. But if you're using something like a machine, then no matter what range of motion you do, it probably is going to be limited, because the machine can only move so much, because, you know, it's pivoting on something, the arms of the machine, the attachments, you know, there's only so much you can do. So when it comes to the full range of motion, depending on what exercise you're doing, you may want to start manipulating the pieces of equipment that you're using. Two examples I like to use are going to be bent over rows and lying hamstring curls. I work out at a home gym, in case y'all haven't noticed. I don't have enough room for actual machines, but I do want to take advantage of the exercises I am doing. So whenever I do bent over rows, I don't have a regular row machine where you have like the back pad right here that your stomach is up against, and then you're pulling the arms back. Think about it. Typically when we do that exercise, you pull, and normally the bar will touch right here on your chest. But if you're using a machine, you could probably go a little bit more. So you see now my hand is actually behind my chest and my stomach. But how can I mimic that right here with a barbell? Because again, I don't have machines. I have a cambered bar, and a cambered bar has a little groove in the middle. So now anytime I'm doing my bent over rows, instead of just coming up to here, that little groove allows me to bring my arms even further up. So that's going to be a great substitute to, again, increase the range of motion. Now I'm going well beyond that full range of motion. If you want to go ahead and use a bar like that or something similar for a bench press, normally when you bench, the bar touches your chest, that's all you can go. But with a cambered bar, now you can go even further down. You get a deeper stretch. And that's the big thing that we're looking for when it comes to training with the full ranges of motion. The deeper stretch at the bottom position of every lift. Why? Because the more that muscle is stretched out, the more range of motion that it has to contract against to get the weight up. And the more range of motion it has to go through, then it could possibly lead to more stimulus, more muscle being built up. Now, another one that I previously talked about, hamstring curls, specifically lying down. Because like I said, I don't have specific machines in this home gym. I don't have a seated hamstring curl, and I love that exercise because when I do it, you definitely feel a big stretch in your hamstring. But how can I manipulate the lying hamstring curl bench that I have so that way I can get even more of a range of motion? What I have to do here is I have to bend at my hip a little bit more. So I put the bench on decline and I stack some pads underneath my hips to kind of elevate me a little bit more. So now I'm a little bit higher up on the bench. Therefore, now my leg is being bent a little bit more. So think about like this is my hip. Instead of just being like this, now it's more like this. And the more you bend at your hip, what other hamstring movement does that resemble? Again, I'm bending more at the hip, getting a deeper stretch. Does that not look like an RDL? Do you not get a massive stretch on an RDL? That's what I'm trying to recreate with the hamstring curls. So go ahead and get yourself some pads, change the angles of the benches, machines, do what you have to do to try to get as much range of motion as possible. If you go ahead and look up Dr. Mike Israetel from Renaissance Periodization, you can see throughout his home gym, he has so many machines that have a bunch of pads stacked up on them, yoga blocks, just so many things, so that way he can get more range of motion on the different machines that he's using. And that's definitely something I recommend that you all do, whether you're training in a home gym or you're trying to modify the machines at the gym that you are training at. Now, what's going to be that third tip? to modify the exercises you're already doing to promote more growth. And this one I feel is gonna be one of the most important things. And it's not just even for building muscle, just in general, is stop the ego lifting. Okay, the whole goal of building muscle is to make the muscle work as hard as possible, not necessarily lifting as much as possible. You gotta ask yourself, is my main priority to build up my muscle and put it through as much stimulus as possible to grow, or is my goal to lift as much as possible? And that's really the big differentiating factor between, let's just say, a powerlifter and a bodybuilder. Let's just say they're both doing squats, okay? We all know squats build up your legs. Powerlifters have the goal of lifting as much as possible on the squat. Bodybuilders have the goal of using the squat as a tool to build up their legs as much as possible. One of them, the powerlifter specifically, has the goal of whatever weight that they put on there, they want to make it feel as easy as possible. Whereas in the bodybuilder, whatever weight they have on that squat, they want to make it feel as difficult as possible, because that difficulty is what's going to really put all that strain, all that tension, all that stimulus on the quads, and that's what they're trying to do to force them to grow. So it doesn't matter what exercises you're doing, if you're just bouncing up and down, if you're just letting your ego take over, the form is not there, you're not even going all the way down, you're not even locking out at the top, then that's a good sign that you're going too heavy. And that's why I saved this tip as the third one for last, because it's kind of a culmination and a combined effort of the two previous tips that we talked about. We talked about the eccentrics. Well, if you're going really heavy, it's gonna be really hard to really focus on going slow on the way down. We talked about full range of motion. If you're going really heavy, especially let's just say something on a squat, it's gonna be hard for you to try to go all the way down, because if you go all the way down, there's no guaranteeing that you're gonna be coming back up. So that's why it's so important. Things like hack squats. How many times have you seen people where they go down, but they don't control it on the way down? They just go down and they just bounce it from the bottom, boom, hits, and they're letting that bounce momentum take them back up. Well, if we were to just lighten the weight up a bit, maybe now what you can do is control it nice and slow on the way down, and then actually let your muscles, specifically your quads, contract to get it back up, instead of letting it come back up all because of that bounce. Hey, but you know, who am I to say that? This is just my opinions. And then another thing, like a lat pull down. How many times have you seen people where they go just boom, you know, and then their whole upper body is just rocking like this? If it wasn't for that pad that locks their legs in place, they would just be flying up out of their seat. No, with the lat pull down, go light. Again, go all the way down, and then nice and easy on the way up. If it's too heavy, then you won't be able to bring it down. If it's too light, you won't get enough of an actual stimulus. So when it comes to the weight, you gotta be picking your weights wisely. Again, when it comes to the lat pull down, this is just one of the biggest ones that I've seen that people keep messing up, is we talked about previously, the eccentrics. Since it's so heavy, when it's time to go back up, boom, their arms just extend like that. They're not even controlling it. No, focus on the eccentric, slow on the way up. And then second point that we previously talked about, full range of motion. Feel the stretch in those lats. How many times do you see people, and not even on lat pull downs, maybe even something like a pull up or a chin up, they don't go all the way up. They only go here. Like if they're doing chin ups, boom, they stop right there. Boom, stop right there. No, same thing. Go all the way up, full range of motion, feel the stretch in your lats, and then start pulling down. And that goes for any exercise. But you know what? Just do what you feel is correct. These are just three things that I started utilizing that have really helped me transition a little bit more from that powerlifting type training to bodybuilding type training. And I am seeing a little bit more of results. All right? I am starting to know, okay, a little bit more muscle mass is starting to be built up. You know, I'm starting to see a little bit of changes in the physiques. So it goes to show it does work. You just got to stay consistent with it. So again, just to summarize it, number one, whatever exercise you're doing, focus on the eccentric, the lengthening portion of the muscle. Go ahead and emphasize it. Don't just drop the weight. Control it on the way down. Second point, full range of motion. Don't just do half reps. Don't just do quarter reps. No, go all the way up, all the way down. Full contraction at the top, full stretch at the bottom. And then lastly, it's a combined of the two. Lighten up the weight and make sure that form is intact. If you're going too heavy, you won't be able to control it on the way down. If you're going too heavy, then you probably won't be able to go to the full range of motion. You'll probably back out because you know you're not strong enough to go through the whole thing. But again, it doesn't matter what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what tips any other influencer, any other gym bro, whoever is saying. if you are not even training consistently enough, if you're not eating the right amount of protein, if you're not meeting your dietary needs, you're not recovering enough between workouts, doesn't matter what you'll be doing, you're not gonna be seeing as much results as you can. I'm just saying, these 3 things could just help you get from being good to being better. It's just little things, but at the end of the day, you gotta find out what works best for you. Hopefully this video was helpful. Comment down below if it was. Comment down below what other tips that you have that have really helped you build even more muscles than you otherwise would. Comment down below also any other video suggestions you'd like to see me do, whether it be about mindset, motivation, nutrition, diets, workouts, programs, whatever it is, comment down below. I'd be more than happy to help y'all out. Be sure to subscribe not just to my channel, but my girlfriend's channel and our couple's channel so you don't miss out on any new videos. Because remember, we got new videos every week across the board for all 3 channels. For this channel specifically, new videos every Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. So don't miss out. And then Instagram and TikTok, same thing. Be sure to follow me on my accounts, girlfriend's accounts, couple's accounts. I put all the links down in the description below. With that being said, I'll catch y'all next time.